Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I am starting this vlog very late. It is nearly 2 o'clock. I have spent probably the last 2 hours chit-chatting on a video feed thingy with my nephew. He's been playing with Lego and I've been doing a jigsaw puzzle. So we've just been sort of sat as if we're in the same room, just, you know, chatting occasionally and just, you know, being present in each other's company. It's been very nice. We got up very late. I woke up at 8, then I woke up at 9 something, and then I fell back to sleep until 11:30. Oh well. It's very foggy out there, it's very cold. We are in the middle of this beast from the east that seems to be heading our way. So we're going to be in the -4, -5 temperatures for the next couple of days, and then it's supposed to like jump by 10 degrees and go to like 6 degrees. So, yeah, it'll be hunkering down for a couple of days. Kenzie is cooking pasta, aren't you, Kenzie Bear? Because he's hungry. So he's making us some pasta, and it's going to be a mascarpone and tomato sauce pasta. I'm going to finish this puzzle off, and then I'm going to make my mum a board box. So like I've made the kids in the summer a board box, so when they say they're bored they have something to do. I'm going to make one for my mother and drop it off when we pop into town to get, well, the pub didn't have enough yesterday for us to just tide us over, so I'm going to go to a quiet shop. I don't really want to, but Kenzie is not happy about the lack of food in the fridge.
Neither is Brendan.
And neither's Brendan. You see, they don't really want to make food. They would rather go and just, you know, eat from the fridge.
You don't have cheese. I can't put cheese
well,
on it.
No, the cheese wrap. Well, we do. We just don't have cheese you like.
I don't like flavoured cheese.
You can go down the pub and go and get some cheddar. Or, oh no, we're out of stinky foot cheese. Yes, so yeah, he's not very happy about that. So we'll have to go and get those bits. We're not going to be able to manage until the delivery, the big delivery on Monday. But we'll go to Co-op. It's very quiet in Co-op. I am making my mother a board box to get her through a few more weeks of lockdown. But I'm going to make sure that everything has had a quick drenching of alcohol spray. I'll leave that, turn it over and do the other side before handing it to her. Thank you very, 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 very much, Kenzie Bear.
Brendan.
What a lovely frosty day. It's almost like Christmas.
Yep. Very foggy.
Even it doesn't look so foggy on the screen, which I find bizarre.
Is it not?
No.
No, it is very foggy.
It's very foggy, but if you look at the screen, it doesn't look very foggy at all.
Maybe we should be driving through the screen then.
Yes. VR mode.
Yeah. Lee's gone to get a ticket. I think he didn't know what the registration was. Spog something. Gonna go and get a few bits for dinner. Just to tide us over till the big shop comes on Monday. And then we'll drop these things off at my mum's, at my mum and dad's. And these are the puzzles I've been working on. This is today's puzzle. And this one was last night's puzzle, yesterday's puzzle. This up here is Corfe Castle. They're both actually Corfe Castle puzzles. There we are, Corfe Castle. And eventually Corfe Castle will be up here. It's somewhere I wanted to visit last year, but unfortunately because of all the lockdown, I didn't get to visit. So hopefully I might get to visit, I don't know, this year sometime. If I'm lucky, be nice. Finished. Now when I go to Corfe Castle, I'm going to see if the Greyhound pub is still there. when I get there. Now I'm going to insert the second half of my Q&A session from yesterday for you. Thankfully, look, it all ties in because I'm still wearing the same pyjamas that I put on last night. So it'll all, you know, tie in and flow beautifully now. I'll just be in a different location. Okay, Ruth Gawthorpe. If I didn't vlog, what other hobby would I have? Now, if it hadn't been for my vlogging, I probably wouldn't have got the van. And I probably wouldn't have gone travelling, despite the fact that that is what I thought I would do when I was really tiny, is I thought I would live in a bus. But somewhere along the grown-up path of life, I lost that. So I'd like to say that I'd still have my hobby of travelling, but I don't think I would. I like reading, but again, I didn't get back into reading until I was vlogging, and then I was watching Minx Laura 123, and she was talking about all these cool books she was reading. So again, it was her talking about books that got me, you know, that got me into it. So I don't know if I'd have gone back to books. I used to sit and do adult colouring in books. I've always put an awful lot into my job. So I've always spent spare time making sure I have cool things for the kids to do. And yeah, I don't know really when it comes to hobbies. I've never been great with crafting. I've tried, but I mean, my sister-in-law Heather has shown me so many times how to start crocheting. I can crochet, but I can never start off. You know, I do exactly what she does, and then I do that, and it all goes. Phew. I lose count of stitches. I create stitches without realising it, and the same with knitting. When I sew things, I tend to sew myself to the thing I'm sewing. So crafting isn't really for me. I don't know. I honestly don't know what hobby I would have if it wasn't for my vlogging. Can we meet the snake and can we see it eat? Yes. I'm literally now have a mouse that is defrosted. So I will feed Nagini when I finish doing all of these questions and answers. How tall am I? I think I'm about 5'7", I think. I don't know officially. I think I'm about 5'7". What has been my very best birthday present? I actually don't know. I'm very grateful for all my gifts. Big, small, homemade, expensive things bought, being taken out for a meal, you know, anything. I cannot think of one thing that I've liked more than anything else. That might be a bit of a cop-out, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, I can't think of anything. Where can you buy these amazing slippers? Amazing pink piggy slippers. Again, I don't know. They were bought for me about 2 Christmases ago, but I had about 2 or 3 pairs of slippers bought for me on the same Christmas. And so these ones have been sat in a box, waiting for me to use up the others before I use these, because usually when I have slippers I go for hard soles, because I have a habit of just walking out in the garden regardless of the weather in my slippers, and these do not have hard soles. They've got these little foamy things which obviously would get trashed if I went out in the rain. So I chose to use the other slippers before I got these out. So they're about 2 years old and I've only just started wearing them just before Christmas. So I'm sorry, I don't know where they came from. They were a gift. If I had a superpower, what would it be? I don't know. One thing, and I don't know if I'd like it, so I don't know if it would be a superpower that I would like, but one thing I've always thought about, like for as long as I can remember, it's been one of those things I was like, I wonder what it would be like, is to be in the mind of somebody else. And the more I think about it, the more I think I probably wouldn't like it, because I think if you could hear other people's thoughts, we all have thoughts that we can't control, or thoughts that come in, you go, oh, where did that come from? You know, that might not be very pleasant or are upsetting or something. That doesn't make us a horrible person, but they're there, you know, they come into your head for fleeting, something external, you know, makes your mind go down that route, or something you've read or something someone said or whatever. But you might start judging people on what private thoughts they had. So it probably wouldn't be a very good superhero power, But you would know if people were lying to you, I suppose, and you would hear that internal monologue. In the past, several times I have been caught out. I take everybody on face value and trust everybody until they give me a reason not to. And this happened a lot more when I would try and involve myself in other people's groups, because I felt that was what I should do. Before, I was like, actually, it's fine to be in my own bubble. And this was before we had COVID bubbles. I was always, people who say I lived in my own bubble, and if I got really upset, it was usually because somebody had dented it or given it a bit of a puncture. And it's a well-known thing with my closest friends and family that I live in a bubble of protecting myself and my family from any nastiness, or, you know, I wouldn't watch the news. Through the COVID stuff, I have actually been watching the news, but before that, no newspapers came into the house, no news was on, just lived in a bubble of just niceness. So in my superpower, that's where I was going, wasn't it? So a superpower, the one thing I keep thinking about is if I could walk down the street and just put myself into somebody else's mind and like live their life periodically, I think that would be interesting. I don't know what purpose it would have. I suppose you could catch criminals. But I always wonder if other people think like me, and I always wonder if the things that go through my head, you know, about what I'm doing for dinner, or, you know, I suppose I've always wanted to compare my thoughts with other people's thoughts. The things that they don't say, the things that don't come out of their mouths, or how they justify when people, like I said, I've got caught out in the past by people. It's when they start to lie, and I know they're lying, but they're so passionate about what they're saying. You think there must be a thought process going on that is convincing themselves that what they're saying is the truth. So it's almost like they're creating the truth to get out of the situation. Maybe that's too deep for the question that was asked, I don't know. But that's the only kind of thing where I thought that would be really good. You know, things like X-ray. I mean, the X-ray vision would be quite good with the rats right now. That would be good. Laser beam would be quite good. I could zap it wherever it appears. Yeah, maybe X-ray vision and a laser beam. Flying might be quite nice. Although I'm quite scared of heights, so I might not feel very safe if I was flying. I probably would just hover above the ground. So the power of hovering is not quite the same as flying. Anyway, I hope that's kind of answered your question, Ruth. What is my favourite book of all time? I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. I don't think I've ever had a favourite book of all time. I'm not very good with favourites. I enjoy things, but then I enjoy other things, and I find it very hard to put them on levels of enjoyment. I'm sorry. I don't know is the answer. Julie Pearson, if I hadn't been a childminder, what would I have done? Oh, and actually this links to a question that Thrifty Grandma asked me, which I didn't actually write down. I meant to write down and I forgot, which was that I'm caring with animals and I have a lot of compassion for animals. So had I ever considered being a vet? So yes, growing up, I liked playing with hair and thought I'd be a hairdresser. And then I became a real animal lover, and we had a lot of animals growing up. So then I was like, I'd like to be a vet. And I still kind of wanted to be a vet until I was about 12. And I took my gerbil to the vets to have an abscess looked at. And I was with a friend, and the heat in the room was very hot. I'm not really sure what happened, but basically I passed out and smacked my head on the floor, felt rubbish. And in my head, that immediately became something to do with what they were doing with the animal, that almost like, even though I think it was the heat in the room that made me faint, in my head, part of it was, well, maybe it was because of the fact that they were looking at the animal and maybe I got queasy. I realised that I was quite queasy with my own blood. I'm pretty good with everyone else's. I actually don't think I would be able to deal with the really gloopy, messy, pussy aspects of dealing with animals and being a vet. And if I'm honest, I would never have passed any of the exams to be a vet. I am not smart enough for it, I'm afraid. I was nowhere near a straight A student. I tried very hard at school, but C's and D's were pretty much what I got. And most of the C's came when I did my resits in the sixth form. And that wasn't because I messed around, and it wasn't because I didn't pay attention. It was because I don't retain information and facts easily. I get full up, and at school my brain got full up and overwhelmed, and then I couldn't take in any more info. And I'm not very good at remembering equations, and obviously when it comes to being a vet, I would need a lot of biology. So yeah, that was not a realistic thing. And then actually for a long time, and again from quite a young age, I do remember thinking I would just like to be a mum. But I always wanted my own money, and it was like, I want to be a mum, I want to look after children, but I don't want to have to keep asking my husband for money. I want my own money. So then I did child development for a GCSE for 2 years. Through that, I volunteered at the autistic unit that was connected to the school I was at, which worked with teenagers, and loved being at the autistic unit. And I used to do the same with the nursery, the day nursery that was attached to the school. I'd do one evening a week. I'd stay on and do, like, volunteer to help them through tea time, that kind of stuff, play with the kids. I did a health and social care course in the sixth form, and then I went and did my NNEB, which was a 2-year equivalent of 3 A levels in childcare. You can do the level 3 now in like less than a year, because they've simplified it a lot, and it's one of the lower levels now. I mean, really, I should have done a degree or, you know, a level 5 or something. But I'm a childminder. I'm working from home. I don't need to do that. I keep myself updated on changes and things, and I've got a lot of experience. So yeah, that's why I went into childcare. I was a nanny from the time I left college, from when I was 18, for the same family, until I fell pregnant with Brendan. Well, actually until I had Brendan. So the day I went into labour with Brendan, I was premature with Brendan. I was meant to be going into work, and I ended up going to hospital. I ended up having steroid injections to develop his lungs, and some sort of injection to stop me from contracting, which worked until Thursday. And then Thursday I went home, and I came back about, I don't know, 4 hours later, and gave birth that evening. So I literally worked up until I gave birth, and I was going to go back to that job. I've been there 6 years, and they're a fantastic family, but the hours were really long, and they made the decision. They were like, you know, I would be there at 7 in the morning and sometimes go home at 9 at night, and that wouldn't be great, because when would Lee ever see his baby? So yeah, it was really hard to leave there. And then I got a job with another family locally, and it was just not the same at all. And at one point, when Brendan had been really poorly, because their children had been really poorly, he was 9 months old, prem baby, 9 months old. It was his first Christmas, and they asked me to, she was pregnant, she had fallen pregnant and was suffering really badly with morning sickness, and she asked me to take Brendan to the theatre with her 2 children that she had booked to take her children to the theatre. He was 9 months old. Take her children to the theatre, and then afterwards, which was past my work hours, go for the meal that was booked. She had ordered a meal, so whatever meal she had booked was what I was going to eat, which would have taken us well past Brendan's bath time and bedtime, and then bring them home at, you know, probably 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, and then go home. And I wasn't happy about doing it, but I agreed because I kind of felt like I had to. But then Brendan came down with a really nasty chest infection, an ear infection, which he'd caught from her children. They'd been really poorly 2 weeks, for a period of 2 weeks between them beforehand. And when Christmas Eve, when I was working, Lee took him to the doctors, brought him to me, at work for the last hour, and of course he'd had his first dose of antibiotics, he had been given Calpol, so he was kind of crawling around on the floor and seemed okay. And she basically told me that she was very disappointed that I was being very unprofessional, and that I'd let her down. And that was kind of a point where I thought, I'm either going to be a really bad mum but a good nanny, or I'm going to be considered a bad nanny but be a good mum. And being a mum always came before anything else. So then I decided that I had to be my own boss and I had to make my own rules. So at that point I started the training to be a childminder, which was ridiculous that I had to train after doing the 2-year course. But yeah, you had to get the qualification that you needed to legally be a childminder. And it was literally just 8 sessions at college in the evening, and then setting up various things. So yeah, I did that. Yeah, then I decided to completely leave nannying. I was going to do half and half, but I decided to completely leave nannying at that point because, and go completely to childminding, because again I had another incident where she'd asked me, that the mother of the children that I looked after had asked me to keep in contact with the previous children that the previous nanny had made friends with, you know, those people, and in particular this one single dad and his daughter. And so I tried to continue that friendship. Anyway, I invited them over one morning to come and play, and he turned up hungover. He was apparently sick. I didn't know this, but apparently went to the bathroom and was sick. She was upstairs in bed with morning sickness, so she was at home. He was apparently ill. She could hear him. And then he was asleep on the sofa. Well, what could I do, you know? He'd just driven over here, probably half cut, with his daughter. And I didn't know what to do. I just looked after both the children, and she laid into me for basically allowing him in the house in that state. And, you know, that I'd been left with both the children and she's paying me to look after them. And I never stood up for myself. But the fact was, this wasn't somebody that I chose to spend time with. This wasn't somebody who I said, oh, you know, your daughter should be friends with her daughter. This was the old nanny's friend. This was the person that I'd been told to make sure I kept in contact with and made an effort for them to see each other. And yeah, then I got read the riot act because of his behaviour when I invited them over. So it put me in a really difficult situation. That was the point where I was like, you know, I've had enough. So yeah, I handed in my notice, and that was that. And I have not looked back since. Childminding has been the way forward. Did you make the BLT?
BLT.
What do you think of your seeded bread that I got you on a whim?
Nice. It's not the sort of thing I'd normally buy, but it's very, very nice.
Right, you lovely lot. I hope you enjoyed the second part of my Q&A. I've been given loads more, so I will do another Q&A maybe next week. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.